Struggle with masculine cards? This one embossing hack might be the answer. Let's get crafting. To get started, I'm going to be using a peel apart stamp. This is a Simon Hurley one called Plaid Builder, some Versamark sticky ink, as well as some metallic embossing powders. I have copper, gold, and silver. Now, any solid stamp that you have will work. I was going for masculine. I thought stripes were good. This had some various textures within the stamp, as well as thick and thin lines. So I'm going to ink it up really, really well, because this is a one-shot deal when you're not using a stamping platform. I'm just literally going to be stamping on top of this stamp. So give it a good inking up. Because I'm going to be using a lot of embossing powder, I wanted a heavy-duty cardstock, so I opted for Distress watercolor cardstock, and I am using the smooth side. But before we get started with stamping, remember to use your anti-static powder so that all that embossing powder doesn't end up where you don't want it. We've all had stray bits of embossing powder show up in places that we don't want, and it's very frustrating. Here I'm placing my cardstock smooth side down onto my stamp, and I'm really being gentle because I want to keep those stripes as vertical as possible. And then I'm just placing a random sheet of copy paper used for lots of other things on top and giving my cardstock a really good firm rub. I want to make sure that all that Versamark ends up on my cardstock because, like I said, I'm not using a stamping platform here, so this is a one-shot deal. Keep all that embossing powder from being all over my desk. I'm just using an old calendar page, and you can just use a piece of scrap copy paper or old mail if you like. And I didn't have a scoop, so I improvised with that as well. I just used an old straw that I washed out, let dry, and then I cut it on a diagonal to form a little scoop for my embossing powders. Now, this particular sample, I am applying those powders rather gingerly, light-handed, just where I'm seeing the stripes. I know you can't see it on the camera currently, but if you're looking at it from my perspective, you can see the Versamark. It is still sticky, and you can see I'm going a little heavier-handed there. Remember to put the lid back on your jars when you're swapping out jars so you don't dump anything. Ask me how I know that. Now I'm moving on to my gold embossing powder, and I did speed this video up so I don't bore you to tears, and I'm just filling in spots. You don't really need to be precise with this. You can kind of dump it, but you don't want to dump it right from the jar. Here I'm using copper, and I'm just filling in the spaces. Hey y'all, I'm Wendy from Village Card Crafts, and I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for choosing to spend your time with me today. If you're finding value or enjoyment from my video, please consider giving it a thumbs up. It helps get my videos out to like-minded people that might ordinarily not know who I am. And I have to say a very humble thanks because our audience has continued to grow. We are up to 22,335 subscribers. So thank you so very much. Once you think you have enough embossing powder, go ahead and pick up your cardstock, and from the bottom, give it a little tappity tap so you start moving those embossing powders across the face of your card. Now do be careful that you don't put your hand in any of the ink. I'm trying to maneuver to do just that. And you'll see that my calendar page is holding the rest of my embossing powders. You can still use that. You can save it, you can reuse it. It's all good. It doesn't matter that it's mixed together. The only thing is you don't put it back in your original embossing powder pots. If you have something else, another little container, an empty embossing powder container, use that if you want to save it. To eliminate a lot of the warpage of your cardstock, make sure that you preheat your embossing gun, your heat gun, for at least 10 to 15 seconds. Now I have sped this way up, but you get the idea. You'll see that there's no real scorch marks and there's very little warping. Now here's a quick look at our metallic marbled technique. Pretty cool, huh? For an embellishment, I've selected this very generic piece of ephemera, and I'm going to be using ultra thick embossing powder this time. If you're an old-time crafter, then you probably have some of this sitting somewhere on a shelf or in a drawer that hasn't been used for a while. Use the exact same technique. Ink it up with VERSAMARK and then add your embossing powder. The difference is we're really going to layer this one up because I want to kind of create a dome out of it. Now these are very thick flakes. I'm going to just use a piece of copy paper to collect it, and I'm covering it up because I don't want it to blow away. The key to ultra thick is you have to heat from the bottom or it will all just fly around in your craft space. I highly recommend a preheated heat tool, and you can either wait for it to cool off a little bit, add more VERSAMARK and more embossing powder, or while it's still in a melted state, go ahead and drop it back in and add more powder. Switching gears, if you haven't seen my foolproof masculine method for creating masculine cards, I'm going to link it at the end of the video so you can check it out. I have 3 things: colors, where you're going to choose 1 to 3 colors, themes, where you can choose 1 or 2 themes, and techniques. And when you combine all of these, you get a stunning masculine card. Now this is a free PDF download, which I will also link in the description box for you. Now I felt that this card would benefit from a border, so I'm going to cut down my main card layer by just a smidgen, maybe 1/8 of an inch on each side. I want that reddish color card peeking out from below it. Now for my colors, obviously I've chosen that red. I've chosen some neutrals like the beiges and the cardstock, and the tan color in that ephemera. My theme is metal. Obviously I'm using gold, silver, and copper. And then my techniques, I'm using heat embossing, as well as some stamping. To assemble my card, I use Accent Opaque 100-pound cardstock for my card bases. I make all of them, and I have used Bearly Arts Precision Craft Glue as my liquid glue of choice, and I have just adhered both layers and giving it a good firm push to make sure that both have connected to the base card. Anything remaining gets trimmed off from the back. Being that this is a pretty flat card, I've decided to add a little bit of dimension to the sentiment. So I have stacked 3 die cuts together, and the top one is red metallic to bring the red layer to the top of the card. I've already glued down my piece of ephemera, and I am adding a heavy block to the top of it just so that the glue grabs to the original cardstock while I add some liquid glue to our sentiment. Speaking of my wonderful subscribers, I received this beautiful card from one of our subscribers, and her name is Jill. And Jill comes from Washington State here in the US, and I don't think she knew that purple was my favorite color, but it's beautiful, right down to the envelope, and beautiful stamps. I absolutely love this. Now, she was inspired by one of my scrap videos, and this was done with white paper scraps and 3D embossed, and it is gorgeous. Thank you so much, Jill. I truly appreciate your kindness. If you'd like to send me a card, I will leave my P.O. Box information in the description box below. Moving on to a second application for this metallic marbled embossing technique, I'm just taking the same piece of watercolor cardstock and I'm directly adding my VERSAMARK to the center of this cardstock. I'm just leaving a little along the edges because I know that that's not going to really matter in the long run, but I want a really good heavy dose of VERSAMARK. Tilted in the light, and I can see where I'm missing some of that ink, and I just go ahead and finish that up. I'm using a fresh piece of copy paper because I'm using different embossing powders. This time I'm going with just a little bit of glitter. So this one is going to be Black Sparkle. This stuff is the devil, y'all. Don't drop it. Don't sneeze. Don't breathe near it. I'm using the same little scoop, and I'm just going to tappity tap to kind of get it to move. I want it to be really random and organic. I highly encourage you to check what embossing powders you have in your stash. These are old, and I mean old. I don't even know if they're still manufactured, but it is Stampendous, and this one's called Stampin' Stuff, and it is a gold with some sort of metallic in it. Oh, it's called jeweled gold, and it's technically transparent. And the other one is, let's see, silver tinsel. It is an opaque, meaning you can't see through it. So I'm mixing different kinds, different colors, and different opacities, and it's going to come out stunning. Tappity tap tap, get some more organic marbling effect going on, and shake off whatever you don't want to use. Again, you can toss it, you really haven't used that much, or you can save it for another use. I still, after all these years, can't get over the beauty of when embossing powder melts. I did use a preheated tool once again, and the shine on this one, amazing. Now for this card, I'm not doing stamping. I'm doing die cutting, and I've chosen this Spellbinders die set called Popular Sentiments. I'll only be cutting the words Happy Birthday from the metallic marbled cardstock. And oh wow, what an effect it has. I die cut the shadow layers from white cardstock, and I'm going to apply them to the glitter cardstock that we created to create our sentiment piece. Now you can see kind of off to the side there on the bottom that I also cut out some calico cats. This combination of powders really reminded me of a calico kitty that I had when I was a young child. And I thought that Tim Holtz Mischievous Cats would be perfect for this card. I'm going to add some texture to my card by using a Spellbinders 3D embossing folder. This one's called Dimensional Diamonds. And I've created a strip with this Sizzix 3D Texture Fades embossing folder. This one is called Wood Grain. I needed a place for my cats to land, you know? At this point, it's all about assembling the card and deciding just which cat I wanted and where. So I decided to have my happy birthday sentiment in kind of the top center of this A2 card, and I liked the little cat with his paw out because we all know cats like to knock things over. I figured the birthday was a good spot. This metallic marbled technique of embossing powders was so much fun. I really hope you give it a try. Here's a close-up look at our two cards. There are so many things that you can do with this technique, and I can't wait to see what you do with it. Join us over on Facebook at Village Card and Crafts to show us what you got. But before you go, check out these other videos that I've selected just for you. Until next time, I'll see you real soon.